The sky of Karthus 9 burned like fire. Black smoke rose high, turning the once blue heavens into a grave of ash and flame. The war between humans and the alien race called the Vorthen had gone far beyond reason. Cities were gone, armies broken, and the ground trembled under the weight of machines and death. Sergeant Daniel Reeves lay behind a broken wall, his armor cracked, his breathing uneven. His pulse rang in his ears louder than the sound of gunfire. His squad was gone, every one of them. Only he remained. He pressed his hand to a wound on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of blood soak into his sleeve. The communicator on his helmet buzzed with static. "Reeves, fall back," a voice whispered, fading into nothing. He tried to speak, but no one answered. The line was dead. He looked up, and through the haze he saw movement. A shadow, tall, graceful, and dangerous. His tired hands gripped the rifle tightly. He aimed. From the smoke stepped a figure unlike any human. She was tall, with silver skin that shimmered faintly even under the smoke-dark sky. Her armor was carved from black metal, marked with glowing runes of gold. In her hand she held a spear longer than Daniel's body. Her eyes glowed faintly amber, sharp, wild, and intelligent. A Vorthen warrior. Daniel's heart jumped. He raised his rifle and shouted, "Stop! Don't move." The alien woman did not attack. She tilted her head, studying him as though curious. When she spoke, her voice was low, rough, and filled with an unfamiliar accent. "You fight alone, human?" Her question caught him off guard. He didn't answer. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Stay back," he warned. She took a slow step forward, spear still lowered. "You bleed. You will die soon if you stay here. I said stop," Daniel shouted again, though his hands trembled. He was weak, dizzy. The world spun around him. She looked at him for a long moment, then sighed softly. "You should not die here," she said quietly, almost to herself. Before Daniel could react, the ground shook. From above, a shell exploded near them, the blast throwing him backward. His rifle flew from his grip. Pain tore through his side. When the smoke cleared, he was on his back, staring at the red clouds. Footsteps approached again. He reached for his sidearm, but it wasn't there. He expected the spear's sharp end. Instead, a strong hand grabbed his arm, warm, not cold, and pulled him up. "Move," she said firmly. "If you stay, you burn." Daniel tried to resist, but his body no longer obeyed. The alien half dragged, half carried him into the ruins. The world blurred around him. Stone walls, shattered machines, the echo of distant battle. They entered a narrow cave hidden beneath a collapsed building. She set him down gently on a blanket made of strange woven fibers. Why are you helping me?" Daniel gasped. She didn't look at him right away. She broke a small crystal and placed it into a metal bowl. A soft blue light filled the room. She dipped a cloth in glowing liquid and pressed it against his wound. It burned at first, then cooled. "You are not my enemy right now," she said. "You are a life, and I have taken too many already." Daniel stared at her, confusion and fear mixing inside him. "You should have killed me," he whispered. The alien woman looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps," she said softly, "but something inside me refused." He tried to sit up, but she pressed him down with gentle strength. "Rest. You will live." He wanted to fight her words, to tell her he didn't need her help. But his eyes grew heavy. The last thing he saw before sleep took him was her face, fierce yet strangely calm, like a storm holding itself back. Outside, the battle continued to rage. Fire swallowed the horizon. Inside the cave, for the first time in days, there was silence. When Daniel finally drifted into unconsciousness, one thought stayed with him. Why did an enemy save me? And somewhere in that silence, the alien warrior sat beside him, watching over him like a guardian. Her name, he would later learn, was Karen, a name whispered in the Vorthen legions with both respect and fear. But tonight she was something else entirely. Tonight she was the reason a dying soldier still breathed. When Daniel opened his eyes, the world was quiet. For a moment he didn't remember where he was. The last thing he recalled was fire, pain, and the silver-skinned alien who had dragged him from the battlefield. Now he lay inside a dim cave, the air cool and still. Soft blue light came from strange glowing stones along the walls. His wounds were covered with bandages that pulsed faintly, like they were alive. He touched one and winced. It was warm but not painful. A sound came from nearby, metal scraping on stone. Daniel turned his head and saw her. The alien warrior sat near the entrance, sharpening her spear with slow, steady movements. The firelight danced over her silver skin and reflected in her golden eyes. Her armor, though dented and burned, still looked powerful. Daniel tried to sit up, but his muscles screamed. She looked at him immediately, her expression alert but calm. "You should not move," she said. "The wound is deep. You need more rest," Daniel frowned. You saved me." She gave a small nod. "Yes." He looked around, confused. "Why, you're Vorthin." "I'm human. We're supposed to kill each other." She didn't answer at once. She set down her weapon, her fingers tightening slightly, as if the question hurt her more than she wanted to show. "My name is Karen, warrior of the Ash Steel clan," she said finally. "I fought your kind many times. But when I saw you on that field, bleeding and still standing, I could not strike you down." Daniel let out a dry laugh. "You felt sorry for me?" Karen's gaze hardened. "No, I felt something else. A bond I cannot explain. My heart chose." He blinked. "Chose?" She stood and walked closer. Her height made him look small beside her. She knelt, bringing herself to his level, her golden eyes glowing softly. "In my culture," she said, "a warrior's heart may choose its mate in battle. When that happens, the bond cannot be ignored. It is rare. It is sacred." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "Wait, mate? You mean like a partner?" Her expression didn't change. "Yes, you are my mate, human." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He tried to laugh it off, but her serious face silenced him. "That's crazy. You don't even know me." "I know enough," she said quietly. "You fought without fear. You protected others even when you were bleeding. You did not beg for life. That is strength of spirit. My kind respect that." He looked away, shaking his head. "I'm not strong. I just didn't want to die for nothing." Karen studied him for a long time. "You think low of yourself. Humans often do. But I saw truth in your eyes." Daniel felt his throat tighten. There was something in her voice, something warm and sincere. No one had spoken to him like that in years. Not since before the war. He forced himself to change the subject. "So what now? You plan to keep me here as your mate?" He said the word awkwardly. Karen tilted her head slightly as if considering. "I will not harm you. I will protect you. That is my oath." He gave a tired smile. "You don't even know my name." "Then tell me," she said softly. "Daniel," he said. "Sergeant Daniel Reeves." "Daniel," she repeated, her voice gentle this time. A strong name. He didn't know what to say. The cave fell silent again except for the faint crackle of the fire. For the first time he really looked at her, not as an enemy, but as someone who had saved him when she didn't have to. Her face, though alien, carried a strange beauty, her eyes fierce but kind. He could see exhaustion there too, and maybe loneliness. After a moment, Daniel whispered, "You could have left me to die. Why risk your life for someone like me?" Karen met his gaze steadily. "Because something inside me said you were not meant to die that way. The universe does not make mistakes when it joins two paths." Daniel lay back slowly, his heart heavy and confused. He didn't believe in fate, but somehow when she said it, it felt true. Before sleep took him again, he heard her soft voice echo through the cave. "Rest, Daniel. I will watch over you." And as the firelight flickered, the alien warrior sat beside him, silent and alert, like a guardian who had already decided that, no matter what came next, she would never let him go. When Daniel woke again, the faint light of dawn touched the cave walls. The air smelled of wet stone and smoke. For the first time in weeks, there were no explosions in the distance. Only silence. Karen sat near the fire, her armor laid beside her. Without the metal plates covering her, she looked less like a warrior and more like something fragile, something real. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the dim light, and her golden eyes softened when she noticed him awake. "You slept long," she said quietly. Daniel rubbed his eyes, groaning. "Guess I needed it." He sat up carefully. The pain in his shoulder had faded, replaced by a dull ache. The strange bandages had sealed most of the wound. Karen passed him a small container filled with thick purple liquid. "Drink this. It will help your strength." He hesitated, then took a sip. It tasted strange, but warmth spread through his chest almost instantly. "What is this stuff?" he asked. "Medicine from my clan," she replied. "It keeps the body alive when the spirit grows tired." He gave a faint smile. "Then I should have had this a long time ago." Karen tilted her head, watching him curiously. "You speak like a soldier who has forgotten how to live." Her words cut deeper than he expected. He looked away. War does that to people. For a while, neither of them spoke. The sound of dripping water echoed through the cave. Then Daniel broke the silence. We can't stay here forever. Sooner or later, someone's going to find us, humans or Vorthen. Karen nodded slowly. I know, that is why we must leave tonight. Leave? He frowned. Go where? There is a place far from here, she said. A safe valley beyond the dead hills. No patrols, no scanners. We can rest there until the sky clears. Daniel blinked. You mean hide? Karen looked directly at him. I mean survive, he sighed. You'd really risk your life for me. Your own kind will call you a traitor. She walked closer, her steps quiet and measured. Let them. I have already chosen my path. Daniel met her eyes, trying to understand the strange calm she carried. Why? He asked softly. Why do this for me? Karen's voice lowered, filled with something raw. Because when I looked at you on that battlefield, I saw more than a human soldier. I saw a heart that refused to give up. That heart called to mine. Her words made his chest tighten. He didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken about him like that. Not as a weapon, not as a number, but as someone worth saving. That night, under a broken moon, they left the cave. The world outside was cold and dead. Fires still burned on the horizon where cities once stood. The smell of ash filled the air. Karen moved ahead, scanning the shadows. Daniel followed, limping slightly. The silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It felt like understanding. Hours passed. The path grew steep and Daniel's legs shook with exhaustion. Karen noticed and stopped. Rest here, she said firmly. I'm fine, he lied. She gave him a sharp look. You are not fine. Before he could argue, she knelt in front of him and lifted him easily onto her back. Daniel struggled, embarrassed. Hey, I can walk. Karen didn't even look back. You can argue later. He gave up and rested his head against her shoulder. Her skin felt warm despite the cold air. Every breath she took was steady, powerful. For the first time, Daniel felt safe. Really safe. When they finally stopped near an old riverbank, Karen set him down gently. The stars reflected in the water like tiny shards of light. Daniel looked at her in silence, unsure how to express what he felt. Karen, he whispered, you didn't have to do all this. She turned her gaze to the stars. I did. My heart chose long before my mind agreed. You may not understand now, but one day you will. Daniel's chest ached. He didn't know if it was the wound or something else, something deeper. As they sat together by the river, the world around them seemed to fade away. No war, no armies, only the quiet bond growing between two souls who never should have met. In that silence, Karen spoke again, her voice soft but certain. No matter what happens, Daniel, I will protect you. That is my oath. And for the first time since the war began, Daniel smiled. Not because he believed in peace, but because for once he believed in someone. The next morning came quietly. A thin fog covered the valley and cold wind brushed through the broken trees. Daniel and Karen sat near a small fire made from scavenged wood, sharing silence more than words. Daniel stared into the flames, lost in thought. His clothes were torn, his armor damaged, but he was alive. He owed that to her. Karen was cleaning her spear, her movements sharp and focused. Even in calm moments, she looked ready to fight a whole army if she had to. Karen, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. You know we can't run forever. She didn't look up. We don't need forever. Just long enough to find a place where the war can't reach us. Daniel sighed. And what if there's no such place? She stopped, her eyes meeting his. Then I will make one. Her voice was firm, full of quiet strength. For a moment, Daniel didn't know whether to feel comforted or scared by her determination. They continued walking until the sun began to fade. The land around them looked haunted. Empty villages, burned machines, and skeletons of old ships half buried in dirt. The war had stolen everything. As they crossed a small ridge, Karen suddenly froze. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. Stay down, she whispered. Daniel obeyed instantly, crouching behind a rock. He watched her expression change from calm to alert. What is it? He asked softly. Scanners, she replied. Drones, human-made. Daniel's chest tightened. My people? Karen nodded slowly. They are searching this area. They must have found our trail. He cursed under his breath. If they catch us, they'll kill you. And you, she reminded him. For helping the enemy. He clenched his fists. I'm not helping the enemy. She gave a small, sad smile. Then what am I, Daniel? He couldn't answer. The words stuck in his throat. He didn't see her as an enemy anymore, but admitting that felt dangerous, like crossing a line he could never return from. The low hum of engines grew louder. A formation of human drones passed overhead, scanning the terrain with red beams. Daniel and Karen hid beneath the twisted remains of an old transport ship. The lights passed dangerously close. Daniel could hear his heart pounding. He felt Karen's hand on his shoulder, strong and steady. Her touch calmed him in a way he didn't understand. When the sound faded, he turned to her and whispered, "We need to move now." She nodded. "Follow me." They moved through the ruins like ghosts, silent, careful, alert. Every shadow could be a soldier. Every noise could mean discovery. Hours passed before they stopped again, finding shelter in an abandoned bunker half buried in the earth. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Karen checked the walls and set small glowing stones around the entrance. "Energy barriers," she explained. "They'll hide our heat signature for a while." Daniel sank down against the wall, exhausted. His body ached, his mind heavy. "Karen," he said quietly, "you could leave me. You'd move faster without me." She turned sharply. "Do not say that again." He looked at her, startled. Her eyes burned with emotion he hadn't seen before, something fierce and almost desperate. "You think I would abandon you?" she said. "You think I saved you only to run away when it becomes hard?" Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but she stepped closer. "You are my mate," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "That bond means your life is my life. If you die, part of me dies too." He stared at her, unable to respond. The way she said those words, it wasn't just instinct or culture. It was real. Karen knelt beside him, lowering her head. "You may not believe me now, but one day you will understand what that bond means." Daniel swallowed hard. "Karen." She reached out, touching his face lightly. Her hand was warm, rough, and trembling just a little. "Sleep," she whispered. "I'll keep watch." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance and rain began to fall, washing the dust from the dead earth. Inside the bunker, Daniel closed his eyes. He could hear her breathing beside him, steady and strong, like a heartbeat echoing through the dark. For the first time, he wasn't sure who was protecting whom anymore. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the world gray and heavy. Daniel woke first, his back sore from the cold floor of the bunker. For a brief second, he thought they were safe, but then he saw the smoke. Thin black trails rose in the distance. Human patrols. Karen was already standing near the door, spear in hand, her eyes scanning the sky. "They are close," she said quietly. Daniel crawled to his knees and peered through a crack in the wall. He saw figures moving between the ruins, humans armored, carrying rifles. "My people," he whispered. Karen nodded once. "We must go." They ran through the old battlefield, slipping between wrecked vehicles and twisted metal. Every step echoed like thunder in Daniel's ears. He could almost feel the scanners sweeping over the land. "Wait," he hissed as Karen pulled him toward a collapsed bridge. "We can't outrun a whole unit." "Then we fight," she said, eyes blazing. "No," he said firmly, grabbing her arm. "If you kill them, they'll send more. We need another way." Before either could move, a voice boomed through the ruins. "Sergeant Daniel Reeves." "Step out with your hands up!" Daniel froze. The voice was unmistakable. Captain Rhodes, his former commanding officer. Karen turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Your kin." Daniel's stomach twisted. "If I go, they'll arrest you. Maybe kill you on sight." Karen raised her spear. "Then I will not let them take you." He shook his head desperately. "Karen, please. Don't fight them. They'll slaughter you." But it was too late. The air exploded with sound. Flash grenades burst around them, white light filling the ruins. Daniel hit the ground, his vision spinning. Shouts filled the air. Orders, gunfire, the hum of energy weapons. When he blinked the light away, he saw Karen standing like a wall of silver fire. She moved faster than any human soldier could. Her spear cut through the smoke, knocking rifles aside, throwing men to the ground, but she never struck to kill. Then a bolt of blue energy hit her chest. Her body jerked, armor crackling with sparks. Another shot came from behind, slamming into her shoulder. She fell to one knee. "Karen!" Daniel shouted. He tried to reach her, but strong hands grabbed him, forcing him down. "Hold him," Rhodes barked. "We've got the alien." Daniel struggled. Don't hurt her.
She saved my life.
Rhodes glared down at him. She's the reason half your squad died. Don't tell me you're defending her. Daniel shook his head violently. You don't understand. Karen tried to rise again, growling through the pain. Let him go, she roared, her voice echoing like thunder. The soldier shocked her again, electricity arcing over her skin. Daniel's chest ached. He could smell burnt air, hear her cry out, but she still reached for him, her hand trembling in the dirt. Daniel, she whispered. He managed to break free for a second, crawling toward her. Stop, you're killing her! Rhodes grabbed his collar and slammed him back. You've lost it, Sergeant. She's the enemy. We're taking her to command. Two soldiers pulled Karen up, chaining her arms with magnetic cuffs that sparked every time she moved. Even then, she didn't beg. Her eyes, those fierce golden eyes, never left Daniel's. I will find you, she said weakly, her voice rough with pain. You are mine, human, Rhodes scoffed. What did it say? Daniel couldn't answer. His throat burned, and all he could do was watch as they dragged her toward the transport ship. Rain began to fall again, cold and heavy. Before they reached the ramp, Karen twisted slightly to look back at him one last time. Despite the pain, she smiled. It wasn't a warrior's smile. It was gentle, almost peaceful. Then the hatch closed, and she was gone. Daniel fell to his knees, his hands shaking. Around him, the soldiers packed up, talking about victory, about promotions. None of them noticed the emptiness in his eyes. When the dropship lifted off, leaving only smoke and silence, Daniel whispered into the wind, You didn't let me die, and now they're taking you. He pressed his palm to the ground where she had stood, the warmth of her presence still fading. For the first time since the war began, he felt truly alone. The days that followed felt endless for Daniel. He sat inside a gray military camp surrounded by tall steel fences and cold faces. The humans called it a recovery station, but to Daniel it felt like a cage. Every morning, soldiers marched past his tent, and every night the sky above him burned with distant fire. He should have been relieved. He was alive. He was free. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, Karen, bound in chains, her eyes filled with pain but never fear. He heard rumors among the soldiers. They said the alien warrior was being held in a human base not far from the front line. They said she refused to speak, refused to eat, and nearly broke through her restraints twice. The soldiers joked about her strength, but Daniel heard something else in their voices. Fear. Every word about her cut into his chest like a blade. He wanted to go to her, to explain, to thank her. But the army wouldn't let him leave. To them, he was a soldier who had lost his mind, a man who'd bonded with the enemy. One night he sat outside his tent, staring at the stars. His uniform was clean, but his soul wasn't. The wind whispered softly through the fences. He thought of her voice, deep, steady, filled with warmth even in chaos. She called me her mate, he whispered to himself, and I let them take her. His heart felt heavier with each breath. Then the alarms began to scream. Breach! Outer perimeter compromised. A voice shouted through the camp. Soldiers rushed out of their tents, weapons ready. Daniel stood, his heart racing. Something inside him already knew. He ran toward the commotion, ignoring the shouts behind him. The night sky glowed with flashes of blue energy. And through the smoke he saw her, Karen. Her silver armor was cracked and scorched. Blood streaked down her side, but her eyes, those bright golden eyes, still burned like fire. She moved with wild fury, throwing soldiers aside like paper. Chains still hung from her wrists, sparking each time she swung her spear. Karen, Daniel shouted, her head turned instantly. The moment she saw him, her face softened, even through the pain. Daniel, she breathed. He ran toward her, ignoring the bullets, the shouting, the chaos. Stop, don't fight them, he yelled. She shook her head, stumbling as another shot hit her leg. I came back. For you? He caught her before she fell, wrapping his arms around her trembling body. Her skin was hot, her breathing uneven. Why would you do this? He whispered, voice breaking. You could have escaped. You didn't have to come back for me. Karen looked at him with eyes full of emotion he couldn't name. You were taken from me. The bond cannot break. I told you I will find you. Tears stung Daniel's eyes. Around them, soldiers shouted orders, but he didn't care. He pressed his forehead against hers. You'll die if you stay here. Her lips trembled in a weak smile. Then let me die by your side, he shook his head furiously. No, I won't let that happen. You saved me once, now it's my turn. She blinked slowly, her strength fading. Your people? They hate me. Then they'll have to go through me first, he said. She stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Not a human soldier, not an enemy, but something deeper. A partner. A promise. The soldiers surrounded them, guns aimed. Sergeant Reeves. Step away from the alien! The captain shouted. Daniel rose halfway, his arm still around Karen. No, he said, voice steady. She's not your enemy. Then she's yours, the captain barked. Daniel shook his head. She's my reason to live. The soldiers hesitated, unsure what to do. None of them had ever seen a man stand in front of an alien like that. Karen's legs gave out again, and Daniel lowered her gently to the ground. He held her hand tight, feeling her pulse fade. Stay with me, he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. You finally understand? He nodded, tears falling freely. Yeah, I do. The captain shouted again, but Daniel didn't move. The world around them blurred, guns, shouting, smoke. It all faded away. All that mattered was her hand in his. Karen's breathing slowed, her voice barely a whisper. Now you see why I would not let you go. Daniel bent closer, his voice breaking. I see it now. Karen. Her eyes closed, a peaceful smile on her lips. That moment changed everything. The war outside no longer mattered. For Daniel, there was only silence, love, and the echo of her last promise. You're my mate, human, and I always keep my word. The battlefield was quiet after the storm. Smoke curled into the cold air, and the once busy camp now looked like a graveyard of broken steel and shattered pride. Daniel sat on the muddy ground, Karen's head resting gently in his lap. Her armor was cracked, her breathing weak, but her heart still beat, slow and steady. He looked down at her face, streaked with blood and rain, and felt his chest tighten. Stay with me, he whispered. You're going to be okay. Karen's golden eyes fluttered open, faint but still fierce. Do not lie to me, human, she said softly. My body fails, but my spirit still burns. Daniel's voice broke. You can't die. Not after everything. Not after you came back for me. A small smile touched her lips. I came back because I belong where you are. He held her closer, his hand trembling against her cold skin. Around them, soldiers stood frozen, guns lowered, unsure what to do. The captain shouted orders once, then stopped. Something in Daniel's eyes told him this wasn't a battle anymore. It was something sacred. Daniel lifted his head. Look at her, he shouted at the soldiers. You call her a monster, but she risked everything to save me. She could have killed us all, but she didn't. No one answered. The soldiers just watched, uneasy, caught between loyalty and something that felt like shame. Daniel looked down again, brushing a strand of Karen's silver hair from her face. You said I was your mate, he whispered, voice shaking. I didn't understand what that meant before, but now I do. Karen smiled faintly. Then say it, human. Say it so I can die hearing your truth. Tears fell freely now. You're my mate, Karen. You always were. Her hand lifted slowly, trembling as it touched his face. Then, my journey is complete. No, he said, gripping her hand tight. Our journey isn't over. Not yet. Her eyes softened, glowing faintly. My people will come for me. They will not understand this bond. Then I'll make them understand, Daniel said firmly. Her lips curved into a tired smile. You are stubborn, just like me. He laughed weakly through his tears. Guess that's why you liked me. The silence between them was deep but full, filled with everything words couldn't say. Then, from the horizon, a strange sound echoed. A hum, a vibration in the air. Daniel looked up and saw lights cutting through the clouds. Alien ships, sleek, silver, and alive with energy, descending slowly toward the camp. The soldiers raised their weapons in panic. Hold your fire, Daniel shouted, standing in front of Karen. No one shoots! The captain glared. They'll wipe us out, Reeves. No, Daniel said. They're here for her, and I'm not letting this end in blood. The ships hovered, engines roaring like thunder. A beam of light spread over the ground and alien figures appeared, tall, armored warriors with glowing eyes. They stopped when they saw Karen lying there. One of them stepped forward. His armor bore markings of rank, a general perhaps. Karen, he said in their tongue, voice deep with sorrow. You broke command. You bonded with a human. Karen's breathing hitched. He saved me. I saved him. There is no shame in that. The alien general's gaze shifted to Daniel. Human, you hold her life in your hands. Will you end it or protect it? Daniel met his eyes, unflinching. I'll protect her, always. Something in his voice, something raw and real, made the general hesitate. He looked around at the battlefield, at the soldiers, at the pain that had no purpose anymore. Finally, he nodded once. Then let the bond stand. The aliens lowered their weapons. The humans followed. For the first time in years, there was silence, not from death, but from understanding. Karen smiled faintly, her eyes half closed. You see? Even they listened to you. Daniel bent closer, pressing his forehead to hers. Rest now. You're safe. Her hand gripped his weakly. Promise me, Daniel. You'll live. You'll tell them what we were. He nodded, his tears falling onto her cheek. I promise. Her chest rose one last time, and then she was still. Daniel didn't move. He just held her, feeling the warmth leave her body. Around him, soldiers and aliens alike stood in silence, watching as the rain began to fall once more. When the alien general finally spoke, his voice was gentle. She died as a warrior, and as something greater. Daniel looked up. She died as my heart. The general bowed his head. Then you carry her flame now, human. As the ships lifted away, the sky glowed with silver light. Daniel stood there alone, soaked in rain and grief, but something inside him felt alive. He whispered to the fading light above, You were right, Karen. Love doesn't belong to one world. And though she was gone, he could almost hear her voice in the wind, soft, proud, eternal. You're my mate, human. And love never dies.